In the grim darkness of the far future, loyalty is the rarest virtue of all. The Imperium of Man was built on devotion to the Emperor, to duty, to the dream of unity among the stars. But in a galaxy where gods hunger and men worship in fear, faith becomes a weapon, and brotherhood turns to ash. Across 10,000 years, heroes have risen in glory only to fall into shadow. Some sought knowledge, some sought love, some sought to save humanity itself. Yet every one of them, in their pride, their passion, or their despair, broke the oaths that bound them. These are the stories of those who betrayed everything they swore to protect. From the jealous heart of a brother to the madness of a god, from the fall of empires to the ruin of mankind itself, these are the moments that scarred the galaxy forever. This is the tale of the 6 greatest betrayals in Warhammer 40,000 lore, and the terrible price of faith in a universe without mercy. Luther's betrayal of the Lion, the shattering of Caliban. In the closing years of the Great Crusade, when the Emperor's light spread across the stars, there stood the proud First Legion, the Dark Angels. They were the first to bear the Emperor's gene-forged sons, and among them was their Primarch, Lion Eljonson, a warrior of unmatched intellect and ferocity. Yet beside him stood another, Luther, his foster father, savior, and brother in arms. But even the greatest brotherhoods crack under the weight of pride and time. When the Lion led his sons across the stars to fight in the Emperor's wars, he left Luther behind on Caliban to govern in his stead, a gesture meant as honor, but received as exile. While the Lion gained glory among the stars, Luther languished on a world he once called home, surrounded by resentment, jealousy, and whispers of inadequacy. And in that fertile soil of envy, chaos whispered. Luther's discontent festered, and when the warp's tendrils reached Caliban, he listened. He began to teach those who remained behind that perhaps the Emperor was not worthy of worship, that perhaps the Lion had abandoned them. When the Lion finally returned weary from the endless wars of the Horus Heresy, he found his homeworld turned against him. Caliban's guns roared skyward, firing on their own Primarch. Brother fought brother, father turned against son. The heavens were torn by lightning and betrayal. In the climactic duel, Luther struck at the Lion, nearly slaying the one he once raised. Yet, as the realization of his sin dawned, the madness of chaos fell away, leaving only grief and despair. The Dark Angels' fleet retaliated. Their bombardment shattered Caliban, while warp energies ripped the world apart, leaving only a single titanic fragment, the Rock. The Watchers in the Dark bore the stricken Lion away into hidden vaults, while Luther lived a prisoner on the Rock, repentant and maddened, muttering of the Lion's return. To this day, the unforgiven bear that guilt. Hunting the fallen in endless penance for the First Legion was broken not by an enemy, but by the betrayal of one of its own. Lorgar's heresy, the first heretic and the fall of faith. Long before Horus raised his banner of rebellion, the seeds of heresy were sown by a son who loved too deeply. Lorgar Aurelian, Primarch of the Word-Bearers, was a man of faith in an age that denied gods. Where others saw the Emperor as ruler, Lorgar saw divinity. He built monuments, preached sermons, and turned conquered worlds into cathedrals. But his reverence brought only scorn. The Emperor, stern, rational, and merciless, summoned Lorgar and his legion to the world of Monarchia. At Monarchia, the Ultramarines, under Robert Guillemot, raised his perfect city under the Emperor's command as the custodian guard looked on. Before the eyes of billions, the Emperor humiliated his son. "You will worship no gods," he decreed. "You will bring only compliance." To Lorgar, this was not correction. It was betrayal. The god he had worshipped as father had cast him down. And in that wound, chaos found its prophet. Guided by Cor Pharaon and Erebus, Lorgar sought truth in the warp. There, he found not one god but 4 Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Slaanesh beings who promised power, purpose, and vindication. Thus, the Word-Bearers became the first legion to kneel willingly to chaos. They whispered its temptations into the hearts of other Primarchs, seeded cults in the shadows, and paved the road that would lead to the burning of Terra itself. It was Lorgar's betrayal, not Horus's, that truly damned humanity. For his crime was not rebellion, but belief-faith perverted into devotion to ruin. He became the first heretic, and his legion the dark evangelists of damnation. Magnus the Red, the sorcerer's catastrophe. Magnus the Red, Primarch of the Thousand Sons, was perhaps the Emperor's most brilliant child. His mind could pierce the fabric of reality. His mastery of the warp was unmatched. Yet, like all who draw too close to the flame, he was destined to burn. The Emperor, fearful of the warp's corruption, forbade the use of sorcery and declared psychic manipulation a danger to mankind. At the Council of Nicaea, Magnus pleaded for understanding that psychic power could be disciplined, controlled, even used for good. But the council outlawed sorcery and disbanded the Librarius, curtailing the Thousand Sons' art. To Magnus, this was not decree, it was betrayal. The Emperor, who shared his gift, now denied it to his son. When Horus fell to chaos, Magnus foresaw it. In desperation, he attempted to warn the Emperor, but his pride doomed him. Instead of sending a messenger, he tore a hole through reality itself, casting his psychic essence across the warp into the sanctum of the Imperial Palace. In that single act, Magnus shattered the Emperor's great project, the Imperial Webway, a secret gate network that would have freed humanity from the warp. The wards of Terra cracked, daemons spilled into the palace, and the Emperor was forced to banish his son. The Emperor sent Leman Russ to bring Magnus to Terra, but Horus perverted the order, turning it into the burning of Prospero. The Space Wolves descended in fire and fury upon Tisca, killing the Thousand Sons and reducing their libraries to ash. Broken and weeping, Magnus turned to Tzeentch, the changer of ways, who offered him power in exchange for servitude. And so the Crimson King, once the Emperor's most faithful scholar, became the Daemon Prince of Sorcery, ruler of the planet of the sorcerers, forever lamenting the day he tried to save his father. Magnus's betrayal was not born of hate, but of love twisted into ruin, and that, perhaps, is the most tragic betrayal of all. The Alpha Legion's double betrayal, the Hydra Coils. Few names in the Imperium inspire such confusion as Alpharius and Omegon, the twin Primarchs of the Alpha Legion, masters of deception, infiltration, and manipulation. To understand their betrayal, one must first question what betrayal even means. When the War Master Horus began his rebellion, Alpharius and Omegon did not join him for hatred or ambition. They were visited by a mysterious Xenos cabal, entities claiming to have foreseen the end of all things. They showed the twins a vision. If the Emperor triumphed, humanity would stagnate and rot, and chaos would endure forever. But if Horus won, the galaxy would burn so completely that chaos itself would eventually starve. It was a terrible choice, and the twins made it. Thus, the Alpha Legion sided with Horus, not out of malice, but out of a perverted sense of salvation. They became saboteurs, assassins, and shadows within shadows. Their motto, Hydra Dominatus, became a whisper of doubt echoing across loyalist and traitor alike. Some chronicles claim Guilliman killed Alpharius at Escrador. Others say Rogel Dorn slew him during the Soul Campaign, or that the twins simply traded places. In truth, None can say if Alpharius or Omegon still lives, or who among their countless agents even knows the truth. The irony was cruel. Horus failed, chaos endured, and the Alpha Legion's grand calculus meant nothing. Their treachery became not rebellion, but an endless recursion of loyalty and deceit, a philosophical rot that questions whether the Imperium can ever truly be saved. Did they betray the Emperor, or save humanity in the only way they knew how? The Hydra's heads still whisper across the stars. The fall of the Aeldari, the birth of Slaanesh. Long before the Imperium, before the rise of mankind, there was the Aeldari Empire, the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. Their mastery of science, psychic power, and art was absolute. But with no enemies left to fight, no frontiers left to conquer, they turned inward toward decadence. Pleasure became religion. Excess became culture. The Aeldari built temples to sensation, orgies of murder, ecstasy, and horror. Every whisper of the warp was fed by their sin, every indulgence echoing in the Imperium. And in that ocean of excess, something awoke. A new god, born not of worship, but of corruption. Slaanesh, the prince of pleasure, the devourer of souls. In an instant, the Aeldari Empire was annihilated. Untold trillions of souls were consumed in a single psychic scream. The core worlds were torn into the Eye of Terror, a wound in reality that bleeds daemons to this day. Only a few survived. The craft world Aeldari, who fled before the storm. The Drukhari, who sank deeper into depravity to hide their fear. The Harlequins, who dance upon the edge of madness. And the Exodites, who fled to distant maiden worlds to live austere lives free from sin. The fall of the Aeldari is not betrayal by another. It is self-betrayal on a cosmic scale. A race that sought perfection instead gave birth to their own destroyer. Their arrogance birthed a god who now feeds eternally on their souls. Even now, 10,000 years later, the Aeldari live as ghosts of their former glory, hunted by the hunger they created. Their every act of survival is shadowed by the whisper of the great enemy they brought into being. No blade, no bullet, no warship could match the destruction of that one sin, a civilization betraying its own essence. Horus's betrayal, the War Master's rebellion, and now, the greatest betrayal in the history of the galaxy, the wound that will never heal, the moment when the Emperor's dream of unity died in fire and blood. Horus Lupercal, the favored son, the War Master, beloved of all the Primarchs, was humanity's champion. The Emperor trusted him above all others, even calling him my son, my most cherished. But love and trust are fragile things. During the Great Crusade, Horus was wounded by a chaos-tainted anatheme on the moon of Davin. As he lay dying, the gods of the warp whispered to him, showing visions of the Emperor's supposed betrayal, that he sought to ascend to godhood, to replace his sons with soulless creations. And Horus believed them. When he awoke, he was changed. The War Master became the arch-traitor. He spread his poison among his brothers, Fulgrim, Mortarion, Angron, Perturabo, and more, twisting them into instruments of damnation. Worlds burned, legions turned, and the galaxy fell into the Horus Heresy, the bloodiest civil war in human history. For 7 years, brother fought brother. The stars themselves ran red with loyalist and traitor blood alike. At last, Horus brought war to the very heart of the Imperium, the siege of Terra. The Emperor quit the Golden Throne and teleported aboard the Vengeful Spirit to confront his greatest creation. In their final duel, father against son, light against shadow, the Emperor slew Horus, but not before his heart broke forever. Mortally wounded, the Emperor was returned to the Golden Throne, entombed within it, sustained by a machine of eternal agony. The Imperium survived, but it was hollow, a corpse empire ruled by superstition and fear. Horus's betrayal had not only destroyed his father, it had damned all of humanity to 10,000 years of stagnation and decay. To this day, the Imperium fights in the Emperor's name, yet can never escape the shadow of his son's treachery. The echo of betrayal. Across 10,000 years of darkness, betrayal remains the one constant in the galaxy. From Luther's jealousy to Horus's rebellion, from Lorgar's faith to the Aeldari's fall, the pattern repeats: pride, faith, ambition, love, all corrupted into ruin. The Emperor's dream was not slain by alien blades or demonic claws, but by the hearts of those he loved most. Every betrayal in the 41st millennium is a mirror held up to humanity, and what stares back is monstrous. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is no innocence, only betrayal, and the ruin it leaves behind. But the story doesn't end here. Every victory hides another sin, every hero another fall. If you would dare to walk deeper into the shadows of the 41st millennium, subscribe and join us as we uncover the truths the Imperium would rather you forget.